So those days when I'm really feeling a little bit bad about my body image, I again change my focus. So I change my focus from all the things I don't like about my body. Okay, Karen, what's good about it? What do you like, and what's there?
Hello and welcome to the JOLYN Q&A series. I'm Harriet Brown and I'm joined here with Carol Fox here today. Hi Carol.
Hello.
So Carol, we are so lucky to be joined with Carol Fox. She's a Gold Coast-based speaker, author and expert in confident communicating. So Carol is acknowledged as an Australian Financial Review 100 Women of Influence, and she brings many years of experience and expertise in elite sports performance to ensure women eliminate their self-doubt and build more confidence. Carol is also a former elite swimmer, surf lifesaver and water polo athlete, which is awesome, and she's an expert in her field, has kindly donated her time today to speak to all of us JOLYN girls to help us answer some of your questions. So a little while back, Lizzie, Jess and I did a live Q&A on body image, and there were so many questions that came through about self-doubt, self-confidence and body confidence, so many that we just couldn't answer ourselves. So that's why we've got no better person than Carol Fox to join us today to help answer all those questions. Carol has worked with many athletes throughout her career and has a daughter herself who just finished year 12.
Finishing year 12.
Just finishing year 12. Very exciting. So it's wonderful to have you here today, and thank you for joining us. The questions that I will be asking you, they're all from the JOLYN girls, and they came through the JOLYN Instagram questionnaire.
Great.
And JOLYN is a community of like-minded people who aren't afraid to be themselves and chase their dreams. So the JOLYN community focuses on empowering women and building self-confidence.
Yay! Love it.
So the questions will be from a range of topics, including body confidence, public speaking, pre-race confidence or self-doubt, and then just general confidence overall.
Yep, sounds good.
Wonderful. So first of all, Carol, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're doing at the moment?
A little bit about myself.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
A brief version. I know there's so much.
I don't know if
to
there's
talk
a
about.
brief version. As Harriet said, confident communication expert. I think at one point we've been talking, you've asked me what my journey was, and I do want to say, front up that as a teenager I was really shy. I was that kid that went bright red in class, and everyone of course notices it and points at it, which means that it just gets worse and worse and worse. So I was swimming at the time too, and I think I really understand what some of us go through around. That's such an important stage of our life, I think, where we can feel quite exposed. And so I think I really had to work out a way to get over my lack of self-confidence and my not wanting people to look at me. And so I actually just embraced it and became a teacher. And I thought, because I had to stand up in front of groups of people and actually embrace it. So
that's an awesome story, and I think many of us can relate to that. My first question is from me. I'd like to know, why is being confident in ourselves, our body and our voices so important for women?
It's because we need to be heard. We need to be seen. We need to have a voice, and a lot of you are athletes. If you think about the people in your clubs, it's important that we have female coaches, that we have female club captains, that we have female presidents, that we have females on our committees. Swimming's pretty good. I'll leave it at that one. And so we need to be seen and heard, because we represent 50% of the population. And unfortunately for a lot of women and girls, is they get talked over and talked down to, and then they just stop contributing. But we need those role models, because for all of you, there's life after sport. Are you still going to be involved in the community? Are you going to become a coach or a referee or on a committee? Because that's what's really important, is about our contribution and staying involved.
It certainly is. And with our Instagram poll, 91% of you JOLYN girls said that you would like to be more confident in yourselves, with being able to communicate with your coaches, your bosses, your coaches and your friends. So we've got our questions coming through from the JOLYN girls. The first one is, how do we build more confidence? So how do we become more confident?
It's a big question, that one, I suppose. I think it's about mindset and what we're focusing on. So lack of confidence will come from when we're focusing on what we don't like about ourselves. So, I really encourage the JOLYN girls to really, every morning, the first thing you would want to be doing is waking up and being grateful, and do a gratitude exercise. And what it does is it trains the brain to look for the good rather than the bad. And so it might be, 5 things I'm grateful for about my body. Because we often focus on the parts that we don't like. Don't worry, everyone, even all the stars in the world will talk about the parts of their body that they don't like. So focus on what you do. I'm grateful for my legs because it means I can walk. I'm grateful for my arms because it means that, and hands, they can pick up things. I'm grateful for this face because it's unique and different. So, really, that's what helps with your confidence, is finding the good about yourself and reminding yourself.
That's a very good practical tip. And what about the girls? So a few girls have written through and said, how do I be more confident when I've got some really strong body insecurities? For example, broad shoulders, or there's a few different examples. We all know what they are, but
we do.
How do you move past those insecurities?
I think that it's a really interesting question. I certainly had them growing up. My shoulders were much bigger, and I remember if I went out in public, people would comment, particularly when I was playing water polo, but even my surf lifesaving. And I remember I was really paranoid about that. And so, I have to be honest, I really didn't come to terms with my body image for a long, long time. And even now I'll have days where I still will just go into this whole, I should be leaner and fitter and healthier. So those days when I'm really feeling a little bit bad about my body image, I again change my focus. So I change my focus from all the things I don't like about my body. Okay, Karen, what's good about it? What do you like, and what's there? So I think that just remember that everyone's going to be telling you what you should be doing, and be careful when anyone should you, because it's, I always say when people are shooting on you, and then people should on themselves as well. And so just be careful when people tell you how you should be and how you should look, because it's often based on their own insecurities as well. So I think self-love is just going to be really important, and just keep finding the good.
I think that's something that we could definitely all be better at.
Yeah.
So the next question coming through is a little bit more about, performance. So one girl has written through saying that she's really struggling with fitness, getting back into training. She's not where she used to be, and she's really struggling to have the confidence to turn up to her squad and just keep training. What advice would you give to someone like that? I think we've all been there as well.
I think we've all. I've been there recently. I had not been in the pool for a very long time, and probably for the reason that if I can't be good at something, I'm just not going to do it. It's not a good attitude to have, everyone. So my sister inspired me, actually. She's an Olympic water polo player, a gold medalist from Sydney, Jo Clark. And Jo told me that she was back in the water, and I got very inspired, and I said, but how? How do you do that and build up and not get frustrated with yourself? And she said to me, so this is an Olympic water polo player. She goes, I hopped in and I did 2 laps. And then I got in and I did 4. The next day, I did 6. And each time she went in, she added 2. And I'm thinking, see, I don't think it was 2 laps. I think she started at 10. But I'm thinking, you know what? If she can do that, then I can be happy with 10 and 20. And so she slowly built up to, I think she capped it at about 1.5 kilometres. And what I did, my daughter decided to go swimming, so we built up that way. And again, it was funny for me because I went to the pool down at Miami, and there's all these other fabulous swimmers everywhere, and I'm like, what if someone recognises me, and what if this happens? And Bella said, Mum, get over yourself, no one knows you, just get in the water and start swimming. And they'll think, isn't it great that an old lady's in the water swimming? So she was very mean to me. But it was good because I just every day just kept adding those 2 laps until we got to 1.5 Ks, enough to do the Peter Pub virtually.
Very good.
So, my advice to you is, get in, make it slow, no expectations on yourself, and it's just so much better for you to be swimming than not be swimming, or exercising than not exercising.
I really like that, no expectations, and I'm going to have to take that advice. I'm currently injured,
Yes.
and I'm slowly getting back into the pool, and it's crazy how swimming 1K seems like so overwhelming, and you would usually swim 6-7 Ks a day. So I think just focusing on the little things and gradually progressing, rather than worrying about will you ever get as fast as you were before, because that's not going to be productive.
It's not productive at all.
So now I'd like to ask you a few questions about racing, so more the racing environment. So one girl has written in, and I think we'd all like to know this, but what's your advice on kind of what you should do pre-race to get your mindset right?
Okay, so pre-race, there's a couple of things that you would really want to be doing. The first thing is, and I think there's probably going to be questions about if I'm too anxious and what can I do. So the main thing I do when I used to turn up to an event and I was racing was that I would make sure that I got into the right mindset. And how I would do that, it's something called heart breathing. And so heart breathing, if anyone's interested, Heart Math, MATH Institute. And heart breathing is where you imagine breathing in through your heart, and you can imagine breathing back out through your heart. And what it does is they've shown that then gives us what they call coherence. So between the mind and the body, it brings it into line. And we all know that when our mind and our body are in line with each other, that's when we perform at our best. Particularly in aquatic sports, all of you know, once we're in that flow, I just got goosebumps, when we're in the flow as a swimmer, as a water polo player, as a surfer, as a surf lifesaver, and we're in flow, we just go a lot better. So get into your heart. I think that, the best way I can explain is gets me into the flow. Then the second thing I'll do is I'll stay present, and you've got to stay present. Those of you, let me give you a hint. If you're anxious and you're over anxious, it means that you're focusing on what you do not want to have happen that day. You say that one more time. The only reason I'm anxious is because I'm focusing on what I don't want to have happen. I don't want to lose. I don't want to fall off that big wave, whatever. So what I then need to do is, again, instead of going out into the future and thinking of all the bad things that are going to happen, I need to either stay present, grounded now, focused on my breathing, or the only time I'll go out into the future is to think about the fabulous result that I'm going to get. So this is a choice that all of you have got from this moment on, and I'm looking at all of you, seriously. You've now got a choice. You can indulge yourself and you can think about all the horrible things that are going to happen, or you can actually go, no, I'm going to think about the great outcome. Now, whether the great outcome happens or not ends up being irrelevant because we're not mind readers. We don't know the future. But why don't we focus on the good stuff and deal with the other stuff when it happens? So I think that's probably pre-race, what I would have been doing and what I certainly suggest to my athletes.
Definitely, and that's something that I've been working on the last season, and it's really challenging to do all the time. I think sometimes you start to worry and you worry about your training or your preparation, but that's not productive.
No.
And making yourself feel better, or even just being in the present, certainly helps with those nerves. And
and can I say, like what you've just said then, so for all of you, if you go spend time in the past, we've just heard Harriet go, did I train hard enough? The past for a lot of us when we hang out in that will be shame or regret. Okay, it's not positive emotions. The future, if we're focusing on the yucky stuff, is fear and anxiety. So that's why we were talking about, stay present. Whether you've trained enough, whatever, it's irrelevant that day that you get to your competition. You've done what you've done. Let's stay present and focus on the possibilities.
Very good. So in one of our polls, 83% of you said that your best performances have actually come from when you were feeling really confident about yourself and really good about yourself. You mentioned staying present. So a lot of the girls say that they get really nervous before a race and they have a lot of self-doubt. What kind of things do you mean about the present? Do they think about their warm-up? Do they worry about what their coach is saying? Or is it more like, what exactly would you do in the present when you're getting ready for a race?
I think for all of you, the best thing you can do, and I always say this to my teams that I work with, change your physiology, body language, you'll change your emotional state. Absolutely. So if I'm going into self-doubt and I start doing that, my shoulders, and sometimes it's tiny little micro movements. So I'll just be much different than if I turn up and I totally believe that I deserve to win that race. So I often give an example of a swimmer. Here I am on the blocks and I'm ready to go and I'm going to win. And then I have a thought that I should have trained harder and my shoulders drop. It's not a big drop, but then you saw it as my competitor, you've just won that race. So I need to be really careful about my mindset by what I'm telling myself. So something I always say to my athletes is there's something called a confidence stance. And the confidence stance is not this Superman one that they teach women, which some people love it, some people don't. It's quite controversial. It does release testosterone. And I think in particular with aquatic sports, we need to be in our feminine energy. We need to be in flow. And if you even watch, one of the most beautiful swimmers, Ian Thorpe, he was always in that beautiful flow. So the confidence stance is actually an old stance from, it's very old, it's 4,000-year-old technique from Qigong, which is a martial arts. And the confidence stance, in fact, I'm going to get Harriet to, she's got a sore foot.
I'll try.
Yeah. All right, all right, you ready? Okay, so I'm going to push your chair away so don't go to sit down because that won't be fun.
Yeah.
All right, so step back a little bit so they can see you. I'm making the person with the broken foot do this, by the way, everyone.
I'll bend down a little bit.
Okay, so put your feet hip width apart. You're allowed to put you. I shouldn't be making you do
That's
this.
That's right. We'll just pretend I'm hip width apart.
And a tiny bend in the knee, and then put your hands over your wrist, and then you've probably got to. You can't stand up. But so pretty much what we would have with Harriet is she'd be standing straight with just a little bend in her knee, feet hip width apart, and standing like that. So this is actually a really strong stance because if I went to push you over when you were doing it, I wouldn't be able to. So you've got to sit down. She looks really uncomfortable. I probably should have gone and done that.
That's
okay. But I don't know if you could feel it, but that is what I teach all of my athletes. So say you've got a whole team. Like I've got a football team I'm working with at Yeronga, South Brisbane, Queensland, AFL. They do that when they're standing around and they just look super confident and they totally psych out opposition because they're there just standing around like that, shoulders are back. It's actually a really comfortable way of standing too. So change your physiology. It really helps.
That's awesome, and that's something practical that all of us girls can use in everyday life or every experience that we're going through that we need that little bit of extra confidence with. So
absolutely.
That's awesome. What is one thing, so we've talked about race day. Now, a lot of these things, it sounds kind of easy, but I guess if you haven't practiced it, it might seem a little bit overwhelming to try and do on race day. So what's one thing, and one girl's actually written in to say, what is one thing I can do every day that will make me more confident come race day?
I would, all of you, I would practice your heart breathing. It's this, and again, those of you who a little bit scientific or you like to know the why behind things, as I said, go to Heart Math, MATH. Maybe we can even put a link in whatever. Go there if you want to know the science behind it, but there is a lot of science behind that breathing. And I think for all of you, all the swimmers out there, I've never worried about my breathing because I think, oh gosh, I know how to breathe. And I might do meditation, which I started very late in life, get into it early. I kept thinking, oh, it's just breathing, but it's not. It's got a reason. So the more you do that, the better at it you'll get and the faster the results will come. When I first started, it would be 3 minutes before I got what they call coherence. Now I could get it in about 30 seconds. So there's a couple of things. I do that. I definitely get used to the confidence stance as being your default position. So I'm going to do it actually, so pretty much, I don't know if I'm getting cut off here, am I? Yeah, cool. So it's only a tiny bend, but just get used. This is your default position. Now notice I'm not doing this, I'm not swaying, I'm not that. And so any of you doing public speaking at school, you're being introduced because you're getting an award. How exciting. This is how you pretty much can stand and it will completely ground you. It will get you out of your head. So that's what I love about this physiology and the change of it.
That is super interesting. I think I have heard you say it before, but it's definitely something I need to practice a little bit more and just implement and put into place. So I love the practical tips. We've got a couple more specific questions coming through. So one girl has asked, what do I do? I'm not a very confident swimmer. So I love doing all the board races, the iron races. We're talking surf lifesaving here, but it can be, you know, any stroke at swimming or anything that you're not feeling confident with. But she's not a very confident swimmer. She doesn't want to do those races. How do you kind of build confidence to do something that you are not very good at?
I've only got one word of advice for you. Just go for it and just do it. Because I think that I've always believed that the one thing that we resist is often the one thing that we really love. Like, think about me. I'm a public speaker, and I told you my story of when I was really young, and everyone would look at me and I'd go bright red and then I'd get picked on. And now I public speak. I just had to face it and be really courageous. And it turned out that it was my passion. So, you know, maybe if it's swimming that you don't like, maybe it's that's actually going to be your favourite race. Or you've got to focus on the positives again. Like, rather than going, it doesn't help you saying I don't like swimming, or I don't like the board, or I don't like whatever, I don't like training. Your subconscious mind will hear that, and it'll support you in that belief. So sometimes we've got to change our thoughts, and we've just got to, it's called a reframe, and I've got to change my thought and reframe it. So instead of I hate the swimming part of the race, which I've heard before, I mean, I did triathlons for a while, and I had a lovely time. The swim was first, so I'd come out towards the front, and then there was a bike ride, and I'd slowly get past, and by the time I got to the run, I'd usually come in last. You know, my whole race was about being passed. But I used to say to myself, I hate the run, I hate the run. And then one day I just went, cool, let's find some really good things about the run, or I'm a good runner, or I run in flow. And that helped me. I still came last, but somehow I won a club championship. So I think it's because I was the one that turned up to the most events.
And maybe it's more of an achievement when you're doing those events that you're not necessarily good at. It's more of a personal achievement that you can overcome a challenge of something that's really difficult.
Yeah. So I think there it's like always for all of you, just be careful what you focus on. If you're still at school, you know, rather than saying this is hard or I don't like this subject and you don't have any control over being in that subject, then you've got to change your mindset around it, and you just do it through thoughts. So change your thoughts. I love maths. I love exams. Oh, you know, and you know, there's a part of you going, I really don't. But our subconscious mind, and you know, swimmers get this. We spend so much in the time in the water talking to ourselves. So I know that a lot of you get this. What we tell ourselves, we will always find the evidence for it. I don't like maths. I don't like that teacher. That person's out to get me. I will find the evidence to support it. So why don't we switch our talk around and go, people love me. People love being my friend. I'm really good at the swimming part of my, you know, my Iron Person event. I have to say Iron Person because it used to be Iron Man in my day.
Iron Woman. I think that moves me to the next question, and this is a big one that always comes up, but big surf or something really scary like that, how do you get the confidence to go out in massive surf when it actually looks scary?
Yeah, I know that feeling. And I remember a time, it was actually the first time I did, it was the very first time they ever ran an Iron Woman event in Australia, and it was up at Southport, and it was one of our big, horrible, you know, and I'd been training on a ski on a river, and I remember the fear that came up. And I think, again, the best thing I do whenever I come across a situation I don't like is I just do it. And I just kind of got angry and just went out there. What I think I do differently now is and we all know if we've the ones that are out in the ocean, we've got to be at one with that ocean. We have to be in the flow. So I used to fight it, but my difference now, and I still take my board out, I still get a little bit scared here, is that I just remind myself to be in flow with it. And I think that the ocean, I don't know. I was about to say, I feel like the ocean responds to that.
I think it does. I think
Yeah,
that when
well-
we go with it, it definitely makes a difference. And in the end, it's only water.
Yes.
And if you're really having a rough time out there, you can always turn around and come back in. But I
Or
think giving
jump
it a
off-
go.
Jump off your craft.
Jump off
She's
and
probably really bad.
dive under, but hold on to that board.
Or, you know, just do the best you can. But I
Yeah.
think again, that's a great question about, you know, the sooner you can get out there and get it done. It's a bit like bungee jumping. You ever done bungee jumping?
No.
No, it's a horrible thing. And some of you will, and it's actually fun once you do it. But you can't, you can't stand at the top and think about it. You've literally, like I always used to push my way to the front of the queue, so I didn't have any time to think about it. And then I'd just go, right, I'm ready. And then I'd just go, because I knew the second I stopped would be the second that then I'd be dealing with my mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think that definitely makes sense, and that can definitely be related to surf and big surf.
And
Very
stay
good.
present,
I
you know.
like that.
That's
I miss that.
Yeah, good, and I love it. And that's again where the present stays. So I can, and again, I can sit there if I'm really worried about the surf, and I'm really anxious about it, then all of you, this applies to any sport, can do something called an anxiety remover. And what an anxiety remover, it's linked to what I said before. I can only be anxious if I'm focusing on what I don't want. So what you can do is I might close my eyes and I'll imagine going out into the future. So say it's a surf race and it's big surf, and I'm going to go out into the future, so my direction's here, and I'm going to drop down, eyes are closed, and I'm going to drop down and imagine half an hour past the successful completion of my race. Now, if I drop in there and check in on my anxiety, it won't be there. Why?
Because you finished.
And it was successful. So then the anxiety goes, then I come back to now, and then I notice it's reduced a little bit. Now, we all need a little bit of anxiety when we race. It's our, you know, it gets us ready. But I've still got too much, I'll redo it. So all of you, just think about, it might be an exam. Take half an hour after the successful completion of your exam. How are you going to be feeling? You're going to be feeling good. So again, that's a little technique all of you can use at any time, you know, at school or uni, but also when you're racing as well.
Thank you. I love all these practical tips, because I think sometimes we can talk about all these things, but then we still don't know how we're going to be more confident or less anxious. So there's some really great tips in there. I've got another one about comparison. So a lot of the girls, the JOLYN girls, are training in a squad. They're all racing against each other, and they start to, I mean, we all do it, compare ourselves to the girls around us. So how do we gain confidence, I guess, when our body might look different to our friend, or our race times aren't as good as our friends, and how do we be happy for them, but confident in ourselves as well? I
love it, actually. And you've just answered my question, is just always be very gracious, be very grateful. It's really about gratitude again. So the more you give, the more that I find the good, the more that I congratulate, particularly women in my life, the more that even my competitors, so it happens to me, I sometimes, if I'm not feeling too good, I'll be scrolling through LinkedIn or Facebook and see one of my competitors doing something, and I'll get an award, and I'll go, and then I go, all right, Carol, that's just not a good enough attitude. So I always, and sometimes I don't want to do it, but I write a message, and then I do, because it would come out wrong, but it's just like, you know, really proud of you, you're an inspiration, wow. And I give them that acknowledgement, and then I really mean it by the time I press send, because I know that the more I give out to them, the more it's going to come back to me tenfold. And you know what, everyone, it always does. So I think be really happy for your friends, and you know that one person you don't like, you thinking about that person, how much you don't like them, is wasting your energy. And as a competitor, you haven't got time to be going there. So you look at that person and you just find things about them that are nice, and you focus on those, and you just I just send love their way. If there's someone giving me daggers, you know, or that means looking at me terribly, or I just feel a bit funny about them, I just always imagine sending a big bubble of love their way. And again, what's your subconscious mind doing? The more I love everyone around me, the more I see the good in everyone else, then the better I feel about myself. When I feel crappy about myself, they're the days that I then find fault in people. And I even hear myself say, you know, I might say something about someone and I go, oh, that's just really harsh. Who's that? And even my daughter goes, oh, who's that about? And I went, yeah, that's about me.
That's awesome. I think that so much of what you've said is so much of a mindset thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that, regardless of how fast or fit we are or what we look like, a mindset is always something that we do have the power to change.
You do.
I've got a couple more questions.
Yeah, you're working me hard today.
Just a couple more to go. So the last one is on public speaking. So 83% of you girls said that you were nervous when you had to speak in front of a group, which is very, very normal. But a lot of the times we have to do it, whether that's for school or work or even in our sporting group. So what are some tips? And you've already given a few of them with the confidence stance.
That's the number one.
Yes. And also just, I guess, thinking about the present moment. Do you have any other tips for someone who is not that confident in public speaking? We've had a few girls say that their face goes bright red.
Yeah,
they're trying to avoid doing it altogether.
Yeah.
Do you have any extra tips on, say, speaking?
Yeah, I do. Remind me about the face going red because I've got a technique for that because I totally understand that one.
All the answers.
So, you know, again, this is, I've lived this. So, public speaking, first thing, remember your confidence stance when you're being introduced and they're saying how fabulous you are, because a lot of women in particular will go, everyone's looking at me now, they're telling them how fabulous I am. You just got to own it. So that's where the confidence stance help. Remember your anxiety remover. Take yourself to half an hour past the successful completion of your talk and everyone going, oh, that was fabulous, thank you, I learned a lot. That's so you've got those. So you've got your stance, you've got your anxiety remover, bit of heart breathing if you need. If you're put on the spot, there's something with impromptu speaking. So it might be that you didn't know you were going to win an award, you had no idea, and now you've got to get up and you're going, oh, I haven't got anything prepared. Even at school, at work, if you ever get caught out, what you do is you can gather your thoughts by going past, present, future. So what I'll do is I'll start on the past, then I'll talk about present and future. So I'm going to make this up, everyone, but say they've just called me out for an award. I've won the inspirational club captain of the year, and I really wasn't expecting to get that. It's my big award.
So how do you feel? Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Well, as you know, Harriet, in the past, I worked really hard as the club captain, and I was really about helping all of the people in my team. Presently, I'm just really proud to have got this award because it's a real reflection of what our club's doing at the moment, looking after the welfare of everyone. And, you know, with this award, I can take that out in the future and really inspire all the young people that are coming through behind me. It was a good talk, wasn't it?
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I think that's something that, if you hear it as it is, it sounds like a really great speech. But as you've said, past, present, future, it actually makes it sound a lot more simple. And that's something that we could all use for any time that we have to do that. So.
It's great at those of you still at school, or even those of you at work and you're in a meeting and you haven't been paying attention and suddenly everyone's looking at you and you just kind of go, okay, let's do this. So the past, present, future, make sure you write it down, everyone. It's just the best way of gathering thoughts. And it's an easy way to write a speech too.
Very good. All right.
The red face.
Yes, red face.
So those of you that, again, the body language is going to help you, okay? It takes you out of your head. You've done your anxiety remover. What else we said? A bit of heart breathing if you need. But I know that feeling for those of you who get it, and it starts here and it's red and it's hot and you can feel it coming up and then you go, please don't come up. So then you're focused on it more and then it hits you and it's hot. So the technique I'm going to share with you is, again, one you can actually use with any emotion. It's called a spinning emotion. So what I'll do is you imagine, and again, practice this at home with different emotions because I would use my hand initially. So say my face has got really red and I'm really hot. It's like you take that red hot thing out from you and you notice what direction it's spinning in, and it will be spinning in a direction. And so that's why I say practice it at home. So say it could be this direction, it can be any direction. So it's red, it's hot, it's spinning in that direction, and then what you do is you imagine it spinning in the opposite direction, and I wash mine over with an icy cold blue, and I keep going until it goes. Now that's something you can practice with any emotion. You don't even need to name it. I might be grumpy, I take it out, whatever colour it is, notice what it's spinning and do it. Now if you can practice that, what it then means is that, and this happened to me maybe about 8 years ago, and I'll never forget the time, and I thought, why is this old thing happening to me? And I stood there in front of people, I was waiting in line for them to get to me, and I did it. Of course, I didn't use my hand, so I just took it out in front of me, noticed what direction it was spinning in, and then washed it over with blue and turned it the other direction. And then that's what you bring back in. So for those of you that turn bright red, you practice this. It's amazing, and it's what has helped me a lot of the time.
Thank you. That is really interesting, that whole visualization, and I might try that. If you said it works, then
yeah,
let's give it a go, girls.
Yeah, definitely.
One more question.
All right.
So this is with regards to communicating, and it was actually really great that 56% of you said that you were confident to stand up to yourselves and be able to communicate something strongly when there was an issue. But there's still quite a few of you that have a bit of trouble to do that. So the last one is, it's a little bit specific, but how would I approach a coach who is staunch and very scary? And we come across different people in our lives who are very scary, and sometimes the easiest thing that we feel like doing is just not addressing it, but that's not productive. How do we approach these situations?
I think there, again, be careful of your mindset. So if I think the coach is difficult, if I think the coach is hard, if I think the coach is aggressive, then I'm going to turn up very differently. I'm going to be turning up in fight or flight response. So I'm going to turn up defensive and talk to them that way, they'll react. Or I'm going to go, hi, which also makes them really defensive. So again, be careful of your mindset, reframe them, they're a person, find some good things out about them, and if you can't find any, it means that you're really focused on maybe the bad stuff, they're grumpy or whatever. So just remind yourself of some of the good stuff about them. And I think then it's really about have an expectation of a good outcome when you go there, because you'll turn up much differently. If I'm asking them a question, I never ask the question why. Why will trigger a defensive response from people, particularly an adult who's not used to being asked why. So always go in with curiosity. So I'm curious about the reason why, you didn't include me in that relay. So rather than why didn't you include me in the relay team, it would be, I'm curious, can we have a talk about why, can we have a talk about me not being in that relay team? So it's just curiosity.
And that sounds so much better already when you
better.
say it. And I think that if you take that on board when you're going to speak to a coach, you can get a lot more positivity or a better outcome than just timidly or a little bit defensive.
So. And again, this is at school, this is at work, this is with, because so many of you are young, you don't have a lot of control at the moment about how people treat you and how other older people, and they want respect, and you're sitting, and that's the other thing too I've noticed with I've been around for a long time, that once upon a time our default was that we would give elders, people older than us, respect until they didn't deserve it. But something I'm noticing with this generation is that their default is, I won't give you respect until you earn it. And I really believe it's the wrong way to go. So if I can say something to all of you, give respect to your elders, respect them until they don't deserve it, then by all means withdraw it. But the more that you respect them and the more that you are curious about why they're doing what they're doing, a lot of adults love to share their wisdom, and we don't respect it in our society enough. So I'm curious, what was the decision behind that, or what was the reason behind that? You'll get a lot more from them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today, Carol. I'm sure all of us have got so many practical ideas to build our confidence, whether that be in our sporting performance training or in life in general. I love all the different tips. What was there? The confidence stance,
Yes.
the anxiety remover, very good, the heart breathing, and I also loved sending love to your competitors, and potentially people that you don't like, rather than all those negative thoughts. So it's been really interesting. I'm excited to watch it over and take some notes and put some things into practice into my everyday life as well. So thank you so much,
Thanks
Carol.
for having me. Really appreciate it.